You seem bothered by something.
How did we get here?
A CDMP TV and film presentation from Crazy D, the mind who brings you the Black Ice Chronicles, the Females DVD, and Situations DVD, brings you The Shifter. It's Halloween night at Crazy D's, and a pesky vamp is out for blood. Beware of the Shifter.
That's it. You gotta go beat it damn scram, man. Damn.
Why don't you be a doll and find me a place to change? I need a place to change my clothes before I go.
What? Don't try to hold me on the phone.
D! You been holding out on me?
No, I was just about to stop and help. You know I helped the crackheads, D.
Some people just don't have originality with their outfits.
It's like I hear voices in my head talking to me and shit.
I saw that punk ass Charles Pippen and his cousin leaving here.
I learned the grace pose. Get your camera ready.
We're here, like we said, for trick or treat. Crazy, what did you see? You seem bothered by something.
You see that shit?
Yeah, that crazy fuck in there. I don't know what the fuck that was for.
Right. She can't stand that shit.
Well, who's the pet bitch?
Like,
What the fuck was she mean? All hoes. I saw her just scratch that poke that bitch eye.
Beware of the Shifter. Be at the premiere if you dare.
Are you gonna listen to the move?
I've been out the loop since '09.
Yeah, I'll be back. I'll be back to get at that, though. Check this. I'm at the motherfucking house last night. Guess what the fuck I see?
What you see?
Shamika, what's up?
Fuck you think you fucking with? It's Maxwell, bitch.
Fuck you in them shoes.
Bitch, I'm about to stomp you with these shoes.
I thought I told you to get a jump to Crazy D.
I did give it to Crazy D. You know, D, you must have seen money in that. You know, he used to produce those nudie DVDs.
Fuck you, thin man. I know you did it.
Don't let your mouth write a check, cause I will take it out on your ass. Damn, man. You serious?
I don't appreciate being roughed up by men, or should I say, male bitches.
Yeah, you gonna work out.
And we look for young ladies like you to host them.
I look like somebody that can host your videos.
That's right. So go change, cause we ain't got all day.
Get off the house.
Really good, though. I'm doing that bullshit.
Crazy. What the hell? How you in my room?
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps.
great respect of the Hollywood Fringe Festival community, heart, it's like
What's going on, people? How you feeling? This is another great episode of #Observations by Crazy D with my special guest host, my sister Tanya M. Congress. How you doing this morning? Let's check out the microphones and see what's happening.
Good afternoon, my time, dear listening audience. I am doing well this morning, despite the rain outside here in Cleveland, Ohio. It's about 46 degrees. So it's that forecast of winter right around the corner. We still got maybe a month or so of fall left. We're almost into November. This is is it the 29th? It's the 29th today, right? 29th or the 30th? The 29th? 29th. Okay. All right. So it's the 29th of October. This time is flying by. Seems like the older we get, the faster time is flying. Yes, at warp speed now. It's at warp speed now. So that's why it's imperative that we understand the value of time. And that takes me back to a poem that D wrote. I don't know. He must have been about maybe 10 years old. He wrote a poem about time, forecasting his prophetic gift there. But we have that poem here somewhere, and then we have a painting that he did, a drawing that he did, that we posted up here. But there are many gifts that pass through this house. And I think we kind of took them for granted for a while because it was just who we were, until you get to where we are now and you look at the state of the world and you say, wow, you look at yourself and you be like, we're pretty dope. I'm pretty dope out here. But this morning I have my fruit and my ginger, of course. But today I have a gala apple, like I've had all week, gala apple. But today I have kiwi as well. Now, kiwi is not something that I normally eat, but it came in my fruit box this week because I decided to let them choose what they sent me. That way I could experience some other things. So in that box this week, I got an acorn squash. I got a butternut squash. I've had butternut squash before, but it's been some years. And an acorn squash, I haven't the faintest idea of how to cook that, so I'm going to have to go to YouTube University and find out how to do that. I had spaghetti squash earlier this week. That's easy. You do that in the oven for 45 minutes, and then it scrapes out like spaghetti noodles. It's really quite interesting. But yeah, and I have my ginger, and I have me a big old cup of distilled water here, as I forgot to make my barley water last night. But I'm excited to be here this morning to continue in part 4 of what we've been talking about this week. You guys go back and listen to the stories. If our prior documentaries have been kind of weighty for you, this is a little bit on the lighter side, yet just as serious, having to do with our endeavors in the music industry and some parallels that we experienced in the industry. But how are you doing today? How are you doing this morning?
Hey, I'm doing as well as can be expected under the circumstances. As usual, we have to say what's going on to our people on Periscope, Vimeo, FB, and the Film Review Life channel. The Film Review Life channel on YouTube. Make sure you go there. Subscribe. We want to have 10 subscribers by the time this is over. Smash the share button. Tag your people on all the platforms on this, because we are dropping information again today. What are we talking about? We're talking about the 12 demons. That's right. We're talking about the 12 demons. So we're going to be going in deep. And of course, we have another video presentation edited down by yours truly, Crazy D. So you definitely want to stay tuned, smash the like button, smash the share button. Tell me, Tanya, do you think that we have gone over some people's heads with some of the information? Because, you know, I remember when I was in high school, I remember my mother would lace me with information besides what I would do. And she had been listening to the radio, and they had this thing called lactose deficiency syndrome, something like that, right? And it had to do with the lactose in milk. And in black people, it caused irritability, right? So I went back to school and I said, well, you know, you shouldn't be drinking that milk because it's lactose deficiency syndrome. He said, no, the milk does the body good. And then later when I was in the store, this had to be 10 years later, the guy came in and said, remember when you were talking about lactose deficiency syndrome? I said, yeah. He said, yeah, man, that affected me. I should have listened to you back then. How come people can't listen right then? So that's why I asked you, do you think that some of the things that we are talking about, because we're getting ready to go in real deep, this has to do with possibilities and probabilities, it's probably going over people's heads.
Yeah, I would say so. And I would like to say that we're not saying that people are dumb and stupid. And I think that what happens is that people take it as such when we say it's going over your head. And because of a spirit of pride, people have a tendency to go on the defense about that verbiage because they're like, well, you're saying, you know, you're smarter than me. You're saying you're better than me. You're saying I don't know what you know. It's like, okay, everybody is in constant learning mode. We're constantly evolving. It's just some are ahead of others, and those that are ahead of others are tasked with the responsibility of at least making the information that we know available to those who don't. This is not an indictment against your capacity to learn. It is a charge to say, it's a challenge and an encouragement to not just be sitting on a hamster's wheel, yet again, as we say, and not just be a sitting duck for whatever comes flying your way. You know, we put this information out here so that you understand and so that you're better equipped and to position yourself in a state of winning and not losing.
Right. And since the lactose deficiency syndrome, now they have lactose-free milk, right? Smash the like button. Smash the like button on all platforms. Let people know that you like what we're putting down because we're getting ready to start. What is the topic for today? The 12 Demons, Part 4, Possibilities and Probabilities. What is the possibility and the probability that if you're in some type of entertainment business, business of show, business of music, that you will run into the 12 demons? What is the odds of that? What are the probabilities? What is the possibilities? The possibilities are very probable that you will run into the 12 demons. Have you ever spoken to someone who was too irrational, too high-strung, too disagreeable to be acting in their own mind? That you say 12 demons have a hold to their minds, bodies, and souls. Are we too involved with venerating the dead while forgetting to love the living? Are we moving dangerously towards necrophilia beyond the veneration of the dead? How much does what Egypt prescribed to, while honoring the dead and preparing the afterlife journey, has to do with the way we book of the dead. Let's discuss. The phone lines are open 213-943-3358. So let's start with some memes. You know how we do. We have to warm it up a little bit. So this is fall. And I found this meme, right? And I thought this is a beautiful meme to start with on a nice fall morning afternoon. Yes, yes. Look at those look at those flowers, the leaves turning to red, to auburn. Yes, 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 yes. That's in Canada this picture was taken, right? And it's nice, but you see that in the Midwest, you see it in many places where there are trees. It's a nice representation. So Canada in certain places looks like Shaker Heights, so you know, it's cool. All right. So here's another meme. And this comes from one of our mutual friends, James Foreman. Instead of reporting posts and having them removed, just unfollow and leave like your dad did.
Wow.
Instead of reporting posts and having them removed, just unfollow and leave like your dad did. Now see, James should be ashamed of himself because he had a mother and father, and we had a mother and father. So he could get away with saying that and really look down upon those people. But let's keep moving there, right? Right? Some of us were pleased. We were pleased, and we wouldn't change a thing. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Beautiful. When I gave a F, I was taken for granted. But when I said F it, I became the bad guy. When I gave a F, I was taken for granted. But when I said F it, I became the bad guy. Won't those 12 demons make you feel like you are the bad guy because you stand up for yourself after you peep game? You have to peep game.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, you know, and I'll say this for the record, I can still give a F and still walk away. I can give a F and still walk away because I understand that a person's capacity for change is, you know, it's their capacity for change or not, but that shouldn't govern me. So when we look at the climate and we look at what's going on around us, you have to have the capability of being able to care and still lead people where they're at. Because you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And some of them you can't even lead to the water. They just be parched and dehydrated.
I think that some people think they part camel. But anyway. All right. Now, is this the power of suggestion? This is a meme that's representing Snoop Dogg. Snoopy, right? Is it the power of suggestion? Because first of all, Snoop, the dog, Snoopy on the Peanuts was a beagle. And for some reason, when you look at the beagle dog, Snoopy is not drawn anything like what a beagle really looks like. But when you look at a beagle, you see Snoopy from the Peanuts. And when you look at this image of Snoop Dogg, it reminds you of Snoopy from the Peanuts. Is it just a matter of mind suggestion? What do you think about that? Suggesting to the mind?
It is suggesting to the mind. You know, you laying up on top of your house and everybody knows what that is, with the smoke coming out of it. You laying up on top of the house, and it is subliminal that you just laying up there, just almost comatose, smoking on a blunt. It is a picture is worth 1,000 words, but I have an additive to that. A picture is only worth 1,000 words when it tells the truth. It ain't worth 1,000 words when it's lying.
See, he looks like Snoopy from the Peanuts, right? And so he looks like Snoopy from the Peanuts, and then Snoopy looks like a beagle because that's what he's supposed to be, but he doesn't really look like a beagle. But it's suggestion because, yeah, you're looking at him, he's smoking, but I'm talking about he reminds you of Snoopy from the Peanuts, though. It's just the suggestion of him laying up there, but the facial, it makes it look like Snoopy the dog from the Peanuts, but Snoopy the dog isn't drawn like that. It's just weird. It's just weird. Now, we were talking about who had the best perms yesterday, and I came across this meme, and it asked the question, what city do you think he's from? What city do you think this man is from? I automatically know what city I think. Let's see, what city do you think he's from?
I don't know, because you'll find that in the South. You'll find that in Chicago. You had a window washer in Cleveland who had a hairstyle like that. Turns out I knew his niece. Turns out. So I can't tell. I can't tell. It could be somewhere in Mississippi.
You know what? I said when me and Tracy first looked at it, Tracy from #TFR Podcast Live, when we first looked at it, we automatically said the D. We automatically said Detroit for some reason. I don't know. We said, yeah, he's definitely from Detroit. You know what I mean? We just said Detroit, Michigan. We thought that was, where he was from. You know. Okay, here's one. We're getting closer to warming up here. Speaking of fighting demons and all that. Pope tells atheists you don't have to believe in God to go to heaven. Pope tells the atheists you don't have to believe in God to go to heaven. What do you think about what the Pope is bringing down now?
Well, I believe that they're remaining consistent with what they've always done, starting with the original religion that they came up with in Christianity, and for those who are offended by that, you need to just go study to show yourself approved. The Bible is not the problem. How it's been interpreted is the problem. And its interpretation originated in this country and most of the places abroad through Roman Catholicism. Then it eventually spun off into Protestant denominations after Martin Luther nailed the 99 Thesis on the door of the Vatican. So, that's remaining consistent. They change things as they get ready, just like this country changes laws and stuff. They change things in the Catholic Church as it suits them. Pretty soon they're going to be saying that what the pedophiles say is that it's a natural thing to love a child the way they love them. That started there too. That started before them and was the root of where they started in Rome and Greece. So it's no surprise to me, anything that they say. It's no surprise.
Oh, Rome and Greece. Sounds nasty. But anyway, let's keep moving. Don't ever dim your light because people are complaining how bright it is. Tell them to turn their light up so you all can see the vision. Don't ever dim your light because people are complaining how bright it is. Tell them to turn their light up so you all can see the vision. I thought that was a pretty good meme there. I said, hey, that's pretty good. It's pretty inspiring there. Don't dim your light for none of these mofos out here. But anyway, all right. So, people, speaking of, as we were talking about, the milk not necessarily doing the body good, you know, people are looking for calcium, and they said the only way to get calcium is to drink cow's milk, and that is not true. That is not true. Calcium without dairy, ladies and gentlemen. Calcium without dairy. Figs, almonds, broccoli, butternut squash, collards, kale. Now, we always wondered what was good about collard greens. And it wasn't something that was just slopped to us from off the table, you know, but it's something good to it. Plant-based milk. So what you got to say about calcium outside of the dairy farm?
Well, that's funny because each and everything on this now, this time we got a 100%. I eat all of, well, it's the butternut squash will be my second time eating it in the history of my life. But I do have a butternut squash in the refrigerator right now that I'll be cooking. But everything else, the fig, chia seeds, I got a cabinet with chia seeds. I have almonds. I eat broccoli, collard greens. But let me say something about the collard greens. There's absolutely no nutritional value in the collard greens that are boiled. And I don't care if you put ham hock, fatback, salt pork, or turkey tail, or turkey legs, smoked turkey legs in there. Any greenery that's boiled down like that, you've lost all the nutritional value. Basically, you've killed it. So for collard greens, to saute them and leave them kind of half crispy, like half raw and half cooked, with some onions and some red bell pepper, crushed red pepper, and some light seasoning, no salt. You can season all of that with no salt. If you put the other flavorings in there, if you coat it with other vegetables, then the flavor from the vegetables will begin to season those greens. You just put some non-salt seasoning in there and some garlic powder or fresh garlic, some onion and some peppers, and it will be just fine. All of that is rich in, collard greens is rich in vitamin A. Kale is rich in vitamin A. All of that stuff is awesome. All of it is awesome for you.
Yes. So tell me, what's wrong with this picture? What's wrong with this picture right here? Look at this picture. First of all, do you know who these two people are? You know, just off the rip. Like, do you know who these two people are? Can you see it clearly enough to know?
It's the one on the left, Coretta Scott King.
Correct.
And the one on the right.
And the one on the right is who?
I'm not sure who that is. Is it Betty Shabazz?
That is Cicely Tyson.
Oh, okay.
You said what? Okay. What's wrong with this picture? Look at their facial expressions real quick. Look at their facial expressions. I saw this and I said, We've seen enough pictures taken with people, and we can look at facial expressions and say, something wasn't quite there. Just observation, just looking at it, something wasn't right there. Because you know, Cicely Tyson portrayed Coretta Scott King in one of the King's stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's wrong with that picture? What's wrong with that picture?
I don't know. They have a look of contentment that the times didn't warrant.
Well,
to me.
No. Well, you know, this is after, but if you look and they're looking in two different directions, and their look is just smiling to smile, but really they seem uncomfortable with each other, just to me,
Right.
just looking at it, right? And it looks as if there were some words before the picture was taken. Now, you could only surmise what words is it. Like, I would have thought they would have picked someone else to portray me, like, someone else. I mean, just thoughts. Okay, here's one I thought was interesting. Name what's his rap name? Now we know. Now we can look at that. And tell that's Mike, and that's Tupac, right? So what's his rap name?
Let's see. Well, it's already like one I thought of. There's already one. I call him Mikey D or something.
Mikey D. Okay. The person who posted it said Shimon Secure. Shimon Secure. Right? Shimon Secure. Right? I really don't have a name for it, but if Mike was coming like that, that would have been raw. Raw
Maybe
Mike.
You should have.
Raw Mike. Right? But he said they don't really care about us, so let me kick it in high gear. Okay. So we've warmed up enough, and so let's go. People swear they are fighting demons when the whole time they fighting the consequences of their actions and decisions. People swear they are fighting demons when the whole time they are fighting the consequences of their actions and decisions. But isn't their actions and decisions actually controlled by demons that bring about the consequence of them trying to fight the demons that they have, sometimes drowning them in alcohol or drugs, or just being off kilter? Isn't it because the actions and the decisions are controlled by demons?
So that's an interesting question. This is an interesting parallel, because in psychology, people have given others the excuse that everybody has their demons. And so when they use that terminology, they're speaking of the things that people struggle with as far as their proclivities and their tendencies towards certain things, like their tendencies to be an alcoholic, their tendencies to be overindulged in sexual activity, their tendencies to be that. So that particular thing that they overindulge in is their demon, right? And so, they swear that they're fighting with these demons on the inside, when the whole time they're fighting the consequences of their actions and decisions. And you went on to say, but isn't their actions and decisions basically being influenced by demons? Yes. The answer to that question is yes, but here is the element that is left out of teaching both secular and spiritual. The part that's left out of it is that we are born with the power to just say no. We are born with the power to look at a situation and say, that's not good for me, so I'm not going to do it. We are born with that power, and if you foster that mind state, then you will never be taken in a direction, no matter what kind of influence is out there before you. It cannot take you in a direction that you don't want to go in. Okay? And we have given people a lot of excuses and people continue to remain in that, particularly those of a religious persuasion. Well, the devil, that devil is busy. No, you busy. The devil is not no busier than you are. You are, your mind is given to that particular thing. And so what you speak out of your mouth, you create. This is the part that's left out of secular teaching and religious teaching. What you speak out of your mouth, you create. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth does speak. So whatever it is that you are fostering and whatever it is that you are building up in, just like building muscle, when you're working out, you build muscle and that fat turns to muscle. It's the same thing. You giving muscle to whatever it is that you put the most exercise in. So if you put the most exercise in speaking negative and speaking that you have these demons, and this is what is going to continue to manifest for you. If you speak differently, you will create something differently. But because we don't teach that, we have lent ourselves to excuses, and it really doesn't fly. At the end of the day, we're all going to have to answer for that. And you're going to know, some of y'all know you're wrong. You know that thought process is wrong. You know it, but it's easier to hold on to it. And it's easier to subscribe to that line of thinking so that you can continue in the way that you really want to continue in anyway. It's a game, and we play it with ourselves.
So smash the share button. Smash the like button, because we're getting ready to take this journey now. Smash the like button, smash the share button. Make sure you subscribe on the Film Review Life channel on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, follow, like, share, friend, all of the platforms that we are on, right? Periscope, Vimeo, FB, and the Film Review Live channel on YouTube. Right now, we are simulcasting on 4 platforms at once. We're getting ready to take this ride. Buckle up, smash the share button, smash the like button, smash the like button, smash the share button, tag your people in this. Okay, let's go over some definitions. Time for some definitions. Definition time. The 12 demons. There's actually 72 or more demons, but we are dealing with 12 at this moment, right? The 12 demons. Classification of demons. Lucifer, the demons are connected to the first 7 up here are the 7 deadly sins, and they are connected by the 7 deadly sins. And we start with Lucifer. Now, Tanya, why would Lucifer be connected to the first deadly sin of pride?
Because if any person knows the story of Lucifer, it was pride that the element of pride. Let me explain pride. Pride can be healthy and it can be non-healthy. In Lucifer's case, it was non-healthy because pride is a lifting up. It's when you get lifted up by reason. The scripture says that he was overcome by reason of his own brightness. He was overcome by reason of his brightness. In today's vernacular, we could say he started to believe his own press, the things that were written about him. So he was what he was he was a creation of God that was composed with pipes in his body, so that when he breathed, he made music like a pipe organ. When he breathed, he made music. Not only that, he had a breastplate that had every manner of stone in the breastplate, so that when God's light reflected off of him, he reflected the light of God. So basically, he was his own light and laser show, and he was his own sound system with his own sound. So that kind of thing, even today, is being replicated on the stage with the lights, camera, action. So it's being replicated even today. And what it does, if you go into a club with the ball turning, the mirrors turning, and the light reflecting off the mirrors, it's recreating the exact same thing. It takes you into an entranced state, so that the music that is pumping through the speakers is putting something, causing a feeling of euphoria and ecstatic feeling, to the point where you can lead the people anywhere. The DJ has the steering wheel. You can lead the people anywhere on that dance floor, right? So Lucifer got lifted up and said, hey, I want to be in the position of God. I want to sit on the throne. Why shouldn't I be there? All he doing is sitting there. I got all this going on right here. And he launched a rebellion. And he took a third of the angels with him when he got kicked out for that treason, that high treason that he committed. So pride is the reason why that would be associated with Lucifer. He is the first one.
Kristen has a couple of questions, a couple of comments. You see them there on Facebook? A couple of questions there. Right, a couple of comments, right? A comment and a question, right?
Oh,
Mammon.
All right.
Is greed. The next demon is Mammon, which is greed. Do you see the two questions? I want to get those answered quickly before we move on. Right there in the path. She says, maybe influence, but you have all power. That was the comment. And then there's a question. May I ask if either of you have pondered? I can't really see it. That's why I wanted you to.
Okay, I see it. I see it.
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah.
She says, if any of you pondered why or how some of the most awakened people, she said, may I ask if either of you have pondered why or how some of the most awakened people have the nastiest, most foul mouths? Like, how does the F-bomb repeatedly spoken enlightening to the spirit? Thank you, guys. Great topic. Right. That's just one of the things. That's a good point, Kristen, that as well as other things, we are told that bitter and sweet water should not proceed out of the same mouth, but because the tongue is the most unruliest member of the body, yet the smallest, that is the thing that we have to pay the most attention to discipline, because it's so unruly, it's so out of order. We can say what we want to say because we grown, right? But all things are lawful, but all things are not expedient. So you have a lot, and that's something that we all have to pay attention to, even as you graduate out of dropping F-bombs, but maybe still participating in gossiping, or it's still a matter of the tongue, a matter of the mouth. And so it takes a discipline on every level.
Yes, it does. Okay, so Lucifer, pride, Mammon, greed, Asmodeus, lust, Leviathan, envy, Beelzebub, gluttony, Satan, wrath. Now let's stop right there at Satan. Sometimes people think that Satan and Lucifer are the same demon, and this is not true. And we talked about that on a couple of shows back when we broke down talking about the Church of Satan and the Church of Luciferians, right? We broke that down. So why would Satan be wrath?
Because now you have a correlation. There's a correlation between Satan and Lucifer, though they are different. There's still a correlation between the two. And so just like in any other family, when one person is cast off, the other person is mad for that person, and they ride and they're dying together. Same difference. So here you have the wrath of Satan. The wrath is against mankind because we sit in a position with God. Actually, we don't just sit in a position with God. The thing is that Satan knows something that much of mankind does not know regarding who we are, and that we are replicas of Christ. Christ was a man. Let me say that one more time. He was a man of flesh and blood. The scripture says he was subject to like temptations, such as we are. So it would not have been a temptation to him. Those things would not have been temptations to him if he were not man. He was subject to like temptations, such as we are, yet without sin. Why? You can't make the argument, as the religion does, that it was because he was God that he was without sin. That is not the reason why he was without sin. He was without sin because he disciplined himself in a certain manner as a man. He disciplined himself to not be given the opportunities to sin. It was a matter of discipline, a matter of discipline. And so just as he was, so we can be in this 111, just as he was, such can we be. We possess everything he possessed to be exactly as he was. Now the question becomes, we eliminate the excuse of the religion of we're just an old sinner saved by grace. We're just human. Well, he was just human. He was human with God's spirit. We are human with God's spirit. The difference between Christ and the majority of mankind that walks the earth is a manner of discipline. So the wrath of Satan is against the fact that he could never be where we are, because he was not created that way. He was not created that way. Neither was his compadre Lucifer, was not created that way. All right? We were created in such a way. So now here we getting down to brass tacks. Keep going.
Belphegor, sloth, Berith, prince of the cherubim. Now, for people who haven't researched, cherubim and seraphim, there's cherubims and seraphim. Cherubims are like the army angels and the ones who protect the entrance of the Garden of Eden, protect the entrance of the kingdom of heaven, etc., etc. Seraphims did not fall. Some of the cherubims fell with Lucifer, right? So when you hear this prince of the cherubim, this is what you're looking for. So look up cherubim and seraphims, and you will be able to see the difference. This is hierarchies of angels, right? So we're going to keep going here, right? Astaroth, prince of thrones, right? Tempter of laziness, to make the person lazy. Veneration, also a prince of thrones. Tempter of impatience, to make a person impatient. Gristle, also a prince of thrones. Tempter of impurity. And Sarnelion, that's right. Also a prince of thrones. Tempter of hate, to make people hate, right? So these are 12 demons. There's actually 72 or more, but we're dealing with these 12 today. So you say, Crazy D, Tanya, what does this have to do with what you've been talking about the last few days? probabilities and possibilities. What does this have to do with probabilities and possibilities? Well, let me bring this down real quick so I can look right at you and so you can see why I'm saying what I'm saying to you. Okay, here we go. The less that you are armed with, the greater probability that you will possibly be set into situations that you could have avoided had you had the information necessary to make you have an understanding, middle standing, and overstanding of what you are going into, right? So what does this have to do with it? Everything. Let's look at King James real quick. Let's look at King James real quick, right? Let's look at King James. Some people say King James was illiterate. I don't know. You know, that could be a lie. That could be a lie. You know, it seems, you know, it's always the Queen's English and not the King's, but that doesn't mean that he was illiterate. King James, classification of demons. Sold in 1591, King James wrote Demonologies, sold several years prior to the first publication of the King James Authorized Version of the Bible. Let me make this bigger so I can read it. Okay. He wrote comparisons between magic, sorcery, and witchcraft, classified demons into 4 sections. How many knew that King James wrote Demonologies, a book that came out in 1591, a few years before the King James Authorized Version of the Bible? How many people knew that, right? So, established demons into 4 sectors. Spectra, spirits that trouble house or solitary places. Obsession, spirits that follow upon certain people to outwardly trouble them at various times of the day. Possession, spirits that enter inward into a person to trouble them. And fairies, spirits that prophesy, consort, and transport. Now this is in Demonologies by King James, 1591. I'm sure it's not out of print. Do you have that along with your readings to see what King James is talking? Some people say King James was talking about demons, and he and in the same one that wrote the Bible, he wrote about demons. But he seems to have been when you research, he seems to be breaking demons down so that people would know what was going on. What you got to say to that?
I did not know that this document existed, and I will be going to look it up and looking into its writings when we're done here. But I'm looking at the 4 classifications there. Spirits that trouble houses or solitary places. I've seen that. Obsessions, spirits that follow upon certain people to outwardly trouble them at various times of the day. I've seen that. Possession, spirits that enter inwardly into a person to trouble them. I've seen that. And fairy, spirit that prophesy, consort, and transport. I've seen that as well. I've seen all of that. All of it.
Now, you say, Crazy D. Tracy, what does that have to do with the music industry? Have you been listening to what Jaguar Wright has been putting down? You know how to do it like the commercial. Jaguar. Have you been seeing what she has been putting? Have you been listening and seeing what she has been putting down? Have you been listening? This is like constantly being on this, and part of being on the wheel and being in that infinity circle, constantly going around on this wheel that we talk about, and not being able to shake that mindset has to do with what you have learned. And what you have learned, or what you have been instilled with, first it comes with what you were instilled with by your parents. And if not, by someone that is a trusted guardian or a person who may take you as, I'm just going to say, as an apprentice, right? Is teaching you something, right? It's only what you instill with, then it's what you learn for yourself that says, hey, I am not going to do that. That is not that important. I am not going to do that. That is not that important. So I won't be dealing with the inner demons that were really set upon me from outward means, and somehow I ingested inwardly due to my decisions. Okay, let's see what else King James says in demonology. All right, this is very important that we know that King James didn't just, bring the Nassim. I pronounce it Nassim. I know it's pronounced the other ways. Tomato, potato. I say Nassim console. And he brought the people together. But before that, he had a book out. Popular, big seller, 1591. Okay. In King James Demonology, he writes, magic is only possible through demonic influence. Magic is only possible through demonic influence. And when people say this was magical, they took me on a magic, they took me all around, and then they had me sign the contract. It was magical. Magic is only possible through demonic influence. Next, devils have the ability to appear in diverse shapes or forms for varied arrays of purposes. Devils have the ability to appear in diverse shapes or forms for varied arrays of purposes. Every day we start this show, because we started in August, and then I added, because I knew Halloween was coming, my classic, The Shifter. It's about a time when a shapeshifter came into Crazy D's music palace, and we retell that story. So we tell that story, and watch that. It's Vimeo on demand. The Shifter, right? It's a horror comedy, a horror com, HORCOM, The Shifter. And we talk about shape shifter. So let's go over it again. So if you want to have an experience and learn how a shapeshifter is overcome, watch that film. All of my films are based on true happenings. On Vimeo right now, just type in The Shifter, Lordlandfilms in the search in Vimeo, and you'll be able to watch it on demand. Or search it in Google and it'll come right up. Devils have the ability to appear in diverse shapes or forms for varied arrays of purposes. Now, next, demons are under the direct. Now listen to this. This may shake your wig. This may stay steady. Smash the share button, smash the like button. This might shake you up a little bit, shake your wig. Demons are under the direct supervision of God and are able to act cannot act without permission. I messed that up. And are not able to act without permission. illustrating how demonic, quote unquote, demonic forces are should be used as a rod of correction when men stray from the will of God and may be commissioned by witches, magicians to conduct acts of ill will, but let me move this up so I can see it, but will ultimately only conduct works that will end in the further glorification of God despite their attempts to do otherwise. Let's go through it again. It's so small, I got to lean in just to read it. Okay. Demons are under the direct supervision of God and are not able to act without permission, illustrating how, quote unquote, demonic forces are used as a, quote unquote, rod of correction when men stray from the will of God and may be commissioned by witches, magicians to conduct acts of ill will, but will ultimately only conduct works that will end in the further glorification of God, despite their attempts to do otherwise. Now, before I say that, this is the same book, which I didn't put this down, but this is the same book where the North Star reference of Jesus and Lucifer are compared to be the same person. That's how when people read this document,
what?
We read this. Wait. Let me finish.
I can't wait.
Let me finish. When people read and interpret this document from King James, they often say that they have read that Jesus and Lucifer are the same, or the two sides of the same coin, which would follow in what King James writes here, that when he says demonic forces are used as a rod of correction when men stray from the will of God. Then it goes into some witches and magicians and stuff, which it's like a contradiction. But then that's how government speaks too. It's in contradiction. So people, you say, what does this have to do with anything? It has to do with possibilities and probabilities of what you will see out there in the industry. If you are not laced with this, smash the share button, smash the like button. What do you have to say?
I have a warning disclaimer to speak before I go on record. Because some of y'all, if any of you are afraid to have your boats rocked, if any of you are afraid that you're going to, if any of you have the tendency to turn stuff off, if it's going to challenge your current doctrinal mindset, if any of you would rather stay within your denominational constructs, you should probably turn this off because you're not going to be able to take it. One of the things that happened when I started waking up to things is I started to see things in scripture that have always been there. They have always been there, yet you're not able to see them as long as you're under the doctrines of devils implemented by man, which is in most churches. I will say that again. As long as you're under the doctrines of demons implemented by man in most churches, you will not see this. It takes you getting outside of the formal institutionalized church environment to really come into a relationship and really come into understanding of God. All right. So when this document says demons are under the direct supervision of God and are able to act without permission, some of you have already said in your mind, well, that's false. That can't be true. That's false doctrine. I will give you a biblical precedent. The book of Job. Just go read the story of Job when Satan was wandering to and fro, and God asked him, from whence you come. He said, wandering the earth to and fro. And God said, have you considered my servant Job, a perfect and upright man, perfect in all his ways? And he said, yeah. The devil said, yeah, you know, he can be that way because you have a hedge of protection around him. So of course everything is good with him because you're protecting him. He's blessed by you. And so God says, well, I'm going to lower the hedge and you can touch everything about him. You can touch all his property. You can touch everything about him. You just can't kill him. And the devil commits to attacking Job. He got attacked with boils. He lost his money. He lost his family, and on and on and on. And this was a test. In this case, it wasn't a rod of correction. It was a test where God was saying, I'm bragging on my boy. I'm bragging on my son. What I put in him, he is not going to turn from me. He's not going to renounce me. He's not going to renounce me. Now, I'm going to make this quick. So some have said that the devil and Jesus are the same person. When Christ came off the 40-day fast and he was taken into the wilderness of the devil to be tempted, he was taken into the wilderness of the devil to be tempted, or did he walk into the wilderness? It didn't say he was picked up and drugged to the wilderness. It didn't say he went into the wilderness in a time of weakness. That is a parallel to our own lives. Often in the times of weakness, we go into the dry place. We go into the dark place. To be in the dark place, you automatically tempted of the devil in the dark place. So it never said that there was a physical entity standing with Christ when he said, I will give you all the kingdoms of the earth if you just go. So it says that he was taken to the pinnacle to look over the area that he was in. He was taken to the pinnacle. And he was told, I will give you all the kingdoms of the earth if you would just bow to me. If you would just bow to me. But there was no physical presence. It's only room for one person at a pinnacle. So who else was there? Who else was there? My summation is that this was a conversation that was going on in his head. So when we say the devil is talking, where is he talking from? It's not audible voice. You hearing God's voice and you hearing the devil's voice from inside your own head. And it's all contingent upon what you have lent yourself to.
Now, wait a minute now. If you're hearing multiple voices, you might need some fan app. But, go continue on.
Yeah. But the concepts of good and evil, see, we getting ready. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry, but I'm not. I am not apologizing for tearing down the sacred cows of religious error. I'm not apologizing for that. See, I knew at some point there was going to be, I don't think I even went this deep on my broadcast. I'm not apologizing for tearing down religious error and tearing down those sacred cows. That's my calling. So now this eliminates the excuse of your humanness, because within us we have godness and we have darkness and we have light. We have good and we have evil. In which way we go, the scripture says who you yield your members to is who you are servants to obey. So with everything that we encounter in life, there is a choice to either go to the right or to the left, to go up or go down. It is nobody there that's telling us anything but the brain inside and what it's been fed.
You know, let me come in. Let me interject. It's funny that you said dark and light, and then you said good and evil, darkness with good, and evil with light, because Lucifer was brilliant and it was lights, and so people often use the word dark wrong, because once your eyes adjust to the dark, you're not squinting from the sun. Your eyes adjust, your pupils open up, and you're able to see in the calm of the darkness, which is good, and light bearing down on you, interrogation, Lucifer is evil. That was interesting that you said light and dark, good. I mean, you said dark and light, good and evil. That's good. That's good. Go ahead. Continue on.
Blinded by the light, dressed up like a dude and a rolling in the night. Blinded by the light, dressed up like a dude and a rolling in the night. Blind. See, now some of y'all are going to accuse me of being a heretic, not knowing that the very religion that you're involved in is heretical by definition, and by its operation, and it's heretical. All right. So I don't really care about those labels, but it's going to be very important that you grasp this, because we are in a turn. We are in a paradigm shift of a time. And there is no time to sit there and decide whether you can comprehend what's being spoken to you. You're going to have to make a decision. Choose ye this day who you will serve. If it's going to be Baal, serve him. If it's going to be God, serve him. And if you're going to, but both of them, the propensity to serve either one is already dwelling on the inside of you. See, this is getting too heavy for some people, because especially religious folks, it's getting too heavy, because now you have a responsibility and an ability to respond to what's being put before you. That's responsibility. Your ability to respond and how you handle it is the responsibility.
Woo! Read what Tracy Latrice, our producer, had to say real quick on Facebook. I can't read the whole thing.
She said, Tracy, she said, now I understand why some people are angry for no reason, or there are some people who do nothing but cause confusion, or some that make nasty comments simply for no reason, but profess to be Christian. But see, exactly, Tracy, exactly. And then, but that would be befitting, because the religion itself lends itself to that type of output. Because remember my saying, this is my saying. I should trademark it or whatever you do with it. It is the origin of a thing that determines its operation and its outcome. So what's being output from the religion of Christianity is predicated upon its origin, upon its foundation. And because the foundation is erroneous, that's why it's so easy for people to subscribe to the religion to have the output of wickedness, or the output of molestation, or the output of fornication, the output of adultery, the output of gossiping and murmuring and slandering their neighbor. They can have that output so easily because its foundation is rooted in error.
Wow. 213-943-3358. The phone lines are open, 213-943-3358. Feel free to comment on the Film Review Live channel on YouTube, and we'll read your comments. Of course, many are commenting on the FB page, and we appreciate you. We appreciate everyone watching on all of the various formats. That is Periscope, Vimeo, FB, and the Film Review Live channel on YouTube. Don't forget you can hear the replays of all of our shows on that great podcast provider called Spotify, and also all the other podcast providers, your favorite of your choice. You can hear the replays. Now, you say Crazy D, Tanya, what is this? What does this have to do anything? Did you know that well, we're moving forward. You just have to watch back. Here we go. Next slide. Now, as we move forward, we have to go back into centuries. We have to go back to the Book of the Dead. This is very important of how things are tied together. Have you ever noticed that many times, let me bring this down so that you can see me talking to you. Have you noticed that many times people will venerate the dead as if the dead have some power to move forward your plight? So people will say they will venerate the dead. They will get into, it gets to the point where it's almost necrophilia, right? And we're going to get into that, right? The veneration of the dead, and it comes from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. So what is the Egyptian Book of the Dead? You say, what does this Crazy D have to do with what we're talking about? Because we are living in a dead time. Everything is alive around us, but we are living in a dead time, and we have to resurrect ourselves. And the way that we resurrect ourselves from the dead is to have the knowledge necessary not to do dead things. The way that we resurrect ourselves from the dead is to have the knowledge on how not to do dead things. Okay. Book of the Dead. Ancient Egyptians' collection of mortuary text made up of spells or magic formulas placed in tombs and believed to protect and aid the deceased in the hereafter. Let's go over it again. Book of the Dead. Ancient Egyptian collection of mortuary text made up of spells or magic formulas placed in tombs and believed to protect and aid the deceased in the hereafter. You know, if we were really, building upon what Egyptians were doing, I'm just saying, like, people be wearing those. We've talked about the Nefertiti earrings, and it's actually a Caucasian woman. But anyway, you got to go back and watch that episode. If they were really building on it, wouldn't you put some other type of shoes in the casket besides those dress shoes? Because, the dress shoes, it'll just be hurting the feet. You know what I'm saying? You walk in heaven all day, you got on the dress shoes. But anyway, that's another story for another time. If we're talking about Egypt, right? Because when they laid out the tombs, they had everything for them. They had mummified dogs, so the dogs come back to life. They had all kinds of jewelry, which was raided, which I don't know how their afterlife went after it got raided. But anyway, look. The Book of the Dead helped Egyptians prepare for the afterlife where Osiris, god of the underworld, would judge them. Now, in the mythology of Jesus Christ, he went down and freed the souls that automatically went to Hades or the underworld, so that they could then ascend to heaven. Isn't that what that tells? So in the Book of the Dead, helped the Egyptians prepare for the afterlife where Osiris, god of the underworld, would judge them. The spells and other texts which were written by Thoth for the benefit of the dead and are directly connected with him were called, according to documents written under the 11th and 18th dynasties, chapters of the coming forth by or into the day. So in other words, they were judged and then they passed on into the day. One rubric in the papyrus of Nu. Like Nubian, Nu. Right. Okay. So that is the Book of the Dead, right? So you say, what does this have to do with anything that we are doing? Have you ever noticed that there are plenty of people out here who are kicking great information, but people keep referring back to the dead? Right? They refer back to the people who have passed on because maybe their life wasn't finished. How many times do you watch specials on King Tut, Tutankhamun? His life was never finished, and they always talk about he died at 18 years old, right? And they always talk about his life, and it's always Tutankhamun, 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 right? We have a fascination with the dead, which leads our spirituality into veneration. What is veneration? Veneration is worship of the dead, a practice based on the belief that the deceased, often family members, have a continued existence and or possess the ability to influence the fortune of the living. Now, my question is, if they were alive and they couldn't contribute to the fortune of the living while they were alive, how could they in death No, this is not to be ridiculing or to laugh at what people believe, but it's just some questions, because we've been talking about, since the Egyptians, we've been talking about afterlife. I'm going to start right there at the Egyptians, right? We've been talking about the afterlife. When the frontal lobe was developed and there was a reference to polytheism and then monotheism through the Egyptians, we have been looking at the afterlife. And the Egyptians' pyramids and the tombs are decorated for the people to have a splendid afterlife. And since then, different religions and different spiritual beliefs have gone through the centuries and have built upon this, what the Egyptians were doing. 213-943-3358. Could you read those next two definitions for me, Tanya? Let me pull the plug.
Okay, necrolatry. Worship of or excessive reverence for the dead. Then there's necrophilia, the sexual attraction towards or a sensual act involving corpses.
Thank you. I blew that spelling on that. But anyway, Do the first definition again, then stop. Let's talk about it.
Necrolatry, worship of or excessive reverence for the dead.
That's right. Have you ever heard this? So see, this is where we got to get off the hamster wheel. We got to get to, we know that there's been a lot of time where American blacks and the black diaspora, period, have been cheated out of things. They have been cheated out of things because of the system that we are in. But we have to get off that hamster wheel and look at reality, which is life is for the living. When the ones who pass on, they're not coming back. Right? They're not coming back on this plane. So they are gone. So either it's so good on the other side, they're not coming back. And it's like you know how people have dreams? People have dreams. They have dreams while they're asleep, and they say, "Oh, my such and such person came to me." And I say, if my person comes to me in a dream, they know what I want to know. They would know what I want to know. What is there? What's on the other side? What's the meaning of life? Why are we here? If it is not just my unconscious mind trying to soothe me through a situation, then that person would come to me and tell me what I wanted to know. Other than that, I'm just dreaming. I remember when my mother passed, right? And I sat at my father's house, because we stayed with my father for about a month, right? To make sure all of his affairs was together. And I had a dream about going down in the basement, and my mother was ironing one of my shirts. She was ironing a dress shirt for me, and she was talking to me, and I said, "I'm just dreaming." I said, and I told her, I said, this is too soon, and going on and rest and going on to the other side, because if you were really who you are, then you would be telling me what we had in-depth discussions about even before you were sick and passed. And that's how I know I'm just dreaming. That's how I know I'm just dreaming. We have to get off the wheel. We have to get off of the worship, excessive worship and reverence for the dead, because the dead have done what they came here to do. If they are successful, then their offspring are moving on into bigger and better, or are moving to change and help the world in some kind of way. And other than that, their time has come and passed. Now, necrophilia, the sexual attraction towards or a sensual act involving corpses. See, if you get to the point where you're going so far and you're loving the dead, you will ultimately get to necrophilia. So you have to pull back. Why? Because there are demons. There are lust demons. There are demons that are like puppeteers, and you have to know the demons. You have to know the 72 plus demons. We only dealt with 12 today. And you know what it is? It's a outward manifestation of what you see with your eye, ear, mouth, gate. See, as I said, what you see with your mouth, eye, and ear gate, what you see. Because each sense gives you if you lose one, you can still use the others to see. You can use the others to hear. You can use the others to say. So when I say use the ear, mouth, and eye gate to see. You see, right? So it's an outward manifestation of what you see, but it's what is inside of you. Is it that blinding light of Lucifer, or is it that calm darkness? Then your eyes are adjusted of God. So this is what we're looking at here. And whichever way you go, because if you're out there doing everything else, and what about the people who like to drug the girls so that they're almost dead? They're almost wanting to look like they're doing necrophilia, right? See how this, you have to be careful. You have to be careful. What you got to say?
There's also one in between there, which is necromancy, which is basically the conjuration of the spirits of the dead for the purposes of magically revealing the future or influencing the course of events. Necromancy. So usually in that type of situation, it's like a person being either conducting a seance, using a Ouija board, or being a conduit where they're channeling messages from the dead. That is a source of necromancy, or speaking incantations and spells to summon up those spirits. And those are referred to as familiar spirits. And though they may look like somebody you know, they may look like your loved one, that is not your loved one.
And that's why we said that if you know what I really want to know, kind of like that episode of Evil when they went out to travel to see his father, right? Went out to see his father, and there was a former slave that came and manifest to the son, right? Because they had been doing incantations, had been drinking this special drink. Kind of the same thing, right? Bringing up the ancestors. Okay. Certain religious sects, in particular, the Eastern Orthodox Church and the Roman Catholic Church, venerate saints as interceders with God. The latter also believes in prayers for departed souls in purgatory. Now, either Jesus went down and released the souls from purgatory, or he didn't. But anyway, another time. Other religious groups, however, consider veneration of the dead to be idolatry and sin. So you see, people, this is what we're in. We're in a dead state, and we have to resurrect ourselves. We have to resurrect ourselves. Which brings us to our video presentation of the day. Did you see the 3 large tech giants being grilled by the Congress yesterday? Did you see it? Did you see the guy from Twitter, the CEO of Twitter? Did you see him? Like, it's like really, like, we're really, this is him right here. If you haven't seen him, we have him up on the screen. Like, this guy, you know, just to me, he looks like a hippie white Jesus, a hippie white Jesus, hippie white Jesus, white Jesus. White Jesus doesn't exist, but you know, hey, hippie white Jesus. Okay, so listen to what they say. So the reason why I bring this up is Politics makes strange bedfellows. Now, we're not talking about the election because we done moved off of that. We done said everything that we need to say. You need to go listen to episodes 1 through 20, episodes 21 through 40, the discussion on the two discussions on Nigeria and the 2 discussions on Trump and Biden. All that is up on the FB page and it's spread out on my Twitter pages, on my LinkedIn page. All it's all out there, right? So we're not talking about the election. We're talking about your ability to do what we're doing right now, have free speech. If they are able to affect the ability of national parties to be able to express themselves, or news outlets to express themselves, what will they be able to do to you, and what have they been doing lately but knocking people? I'm going to call it knocking. That's what we call it in Cleveland. When they knocking people for what they wrote 4, 5, 6 years ago. I mean, when I started writing stuff against Obama, they had locked my account. I've got so many accounts locked on Facebook, well, about 3, locked on Facebook that, I don't have a real track history of going back 5, 6 years having the same account because they've locked me. But anyway. So they have been practicing censorship on American blacks for a while. And I'm saying it right here on the platform. They have been practicing censorship against American blacks for a while. Now they are doing that. What will they do to you now that they are able to do? So this is why we watch this. So politics makes strange bedfellows because if you are aware and you are awake and you know that you want your freedom of speech, you want to be able to use platforms freely to express yourself, as long as you're not talking about killing people and all that, but you want to express your views that may be contrary to even those who are the bot keepers on platforms. You should be able to do so because it is a platform of freedom of speech. If you're not calling fire in the theater, then your freedom of speech should be kept intact because the different platforms are like countries of their own. And when you have dictators that are not fair to you, then you can see what could potentially happen in the United States. And so all of this ties in together. So listen to his words and listen to his, in my opinion, deception.
Our plan and our enforcement around these issues is pointing to more information and specifically state election officials. So we want to give the people using the service as much information as possible.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal. Senator Cruz.
Chairman, I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing. The 3 witnesses we have before this committee today collectively pose, I believe, the single greatest threat to free speech in America and the greatest threat we have to free and fair elections. Yesterday, I spent a considerable amount of time speaking with both Mr. Zuckerberg and Mr. Pichai. I have concerns about the behavior of both of their companies. I would note that Facebook is at the minimum at least trying to make some efforts in the direction of defending free speech. I appreciate their doing so. Google, I agree with the concerns that Senator Klobuchar raised. I think Google has more power than any company on the face of the planet. And the antitrust concerns are real. The impact of Google is profound. And I expect we will have continued and ongoing discussions about Google's abuse of that power and its willingness to manipulate search outcomes to influence and change election results. But today, I want to focus my questioning on Mr. Dorsey and on Twitter. Because of the 3 players before us, I think Twitter's conduct has by far been the most egregious. Mr. Dorsey, does Twitter have the ability to influence elections?
No.
You don't believe Twitter has any
Let me pause that right now. Anyone who has a platform where people are on there like it's the world. Like some people are on social media platforms like it's the world. They don't go outside, etc., etc., etc. If you will sit up there, in my opinion, my observation, and sit up there and both see, Ted Cruz don't get love from me because Ted Cruz has some contrary views to American blacks. However, the person that is sounding the alarm, this is what is hard to get through to dense people. The people who are sounding the alarm, you sometimes have to have your arguments ready to bolster that alarm for the betterment of your own group. You have to have your arguments ready to bolster that argument for your own group. And unfortunately, it is the Republican Party that is sounding the alarm on this. And how many DJs out there who were using FB to promote, to continue on, to sell their wares, to get parties where they could, and watch them yank what you do off instead of them paying the blanket copyright fee so that the world, the country, within a social media system that they have made where people can enjoy music without the worry of them being kicked off. Instagram too, being that they have bought Instagram, they have bought Skype, they have just locked everything in where Instagram was like the wild, wild west and people were using it to make money just like they did with the DVDs, not Facebook, but just like some that look like, in my opinion, Zuckerberg did with the DVD. They said it was illegal to tell stories on DVD, illegal to have fights on DVD, but they put it on TV, passed a law, but they passed a law as long as you sell commercials. You can show the same content on reality TV. Just another way. So the women on there, right or wrong, whatever you believe about it, however, were using Instagram as the wild, wild west to be able to sell products, sell themselves, get into music videos, etc. Whatever you believe about that. But it's always a way to shut down American black economy. And when you get that through, when you look back at every single time that American black had an economy. Now, we're not talking about Ready Rock, because Ready Rock was, you were selling for Ronald Reagan to fund the Iran-Contra. You were basically really a patriot that was put in prison for what you did, because actually you were selling crack for a white man. Facts. You was the greatest patriot ever, but you weren't rewarded. You were put... Another story for another time. So let's continue. Let's continue. You got to have a little humor in this because this is twisting and turning. So let's continue with this. What does this have to do with the demons? Pay attention to the demons.
Ability to influence elections.
No, we are one part of a broad spectrum of communication channels that people have.
So you're testifying to this committee right now that Twitter, when it silences people, when it censors people, when it blocks political speech, that has no impact on elections?
People have choice of other communication channels with which...
Not if they don't hear information. If you don't think you have the power to influence elections, why do you block anything?
Well, we have policies that are focused on making...
See there, Ted Cruz asked, if you don't think that you have the power to influence elections, Why do you block anything? If you don't know about the Washington Post story, you gotta catch up. The Washington Post story that's talking about Biden. We're not talking about the election though. We're talking about the ability of people to block your signal. You are using their platform. You are basically the entertainment that they sell advertisement for, and they do not care about you anymore than to block what you say when they don't like what you say, but they're selling advertisement because you are the entertainment, and they're selling advertisement, but they would not pay the blanket copyright fee to be, they didn't like that. Oh God. Oh, they're trying to kick it. They didn't like it. You are the entertainment, and they wouldn't pay the basic blanket copyright fee so the music could play to make the community better, to entertain people during this COVID-19 debacle. We're not talking about the election. We're talking about the ability for you to have free, open discussions without fear of being put into a social media jail or being kicked off the platform altogether. And if they can do it to the bigger, then what are they going to do to you? Let's continue on. Listen and watch out for the demons.
Making sure that more voices on the platform are possible. We see a lot of abuse and harassment, which ends up silencing people and having them leave from the platform.
All right, Mr. Dorsey, I find your opening questions, your opening answers absurd on their face. But let's talk about the last 2 weeks in particular. As you know, I have long been concerned about Twitter's pattern of censoring and silencing individual Americans with whom Twitter disagrees. But 2 weeks ago, Twitter, and to a lesser extent Facebook, crossed a threshold that is fundamental in our country. 2 weeks ago, Twitter made the unilateral decision to censor the New York Post in a series of 2 blockbuster articles, both alleging evidence of corruption against Joe Biden, the first concerning Ukraine, the second concerning communist China. And Twitter made the decision, number one, to prevent users, any user, from sharing those stories. And number two, you went even further and blocked the New York Post from sharing on Twitter its own reporting. Why did Twitter make the decision to censor the New York Post?
We had a hack materials policy that we...
When was that policy adopted?
In 2018, I believe.
In 2018, go ahead. What was the policy?
So the policy is around limiting the spread of materials that are hacked. We didn't want Twitter to be a distributor for hack materials. We found that the New York Post, because it showed the direct materials, screenshots of the direct materials, and it was unclear how those were attained, that it fell under this policy. Now,
so in your view, if it's unclear the source of a document, and in this instance, the New York Post documented what it said the source was, which it said it was a laptop owned by Hunter Biden that had been turned into a repair store. So they weren't hiding what they claimed to be the source. Is it your position that Twitter, when you can't tell the source, blocks press stories?
No, not at all. Our team made a fast decision. The enforcement.
At this point, he's double speaking. He's speaking with forked tongue. He's saying one thing, and then like I said, Ted Cruz is a senator. He speaks with, all of them speak with forked tongue. This is what we're doing. But at this point, you're looking and you're saying, if they can do this to a large concern, what will they be able to do to you one day? What are they doing to change an election? And one day, if you uphold them in this, it may be a candidate that you don't like, that they want for some reason that will be detrimental to your group. And this is what you have to look out for. Watch out for the demons.
And he can't even look in the camera straight.
Which demons are just observation, opinion, just asking a question. Which demons do you see that we have laid out? What do you see? Let's continue.
Enforcement action, however, of blocking URLs, both in tweets and in DM, in direct messages, we believe was incorrect. And we changed it
today.
24 hours.
Right now, the New York Post is still blocked from tweeting 2 weeks later.
Yes, they have to log into their account, which they can do at this minute, delete the original tweet, which fell under our original enforcement actions, and they can tweet the exact same material in the exact same article, and it would go through.
So, Mr. Dorsey, your ability is you have the power to force a media outlet. Let's be clear. The New York Post isn't just some random guy tweeting. The New York Post has the 4th highest circulation of any newspaper in America. The New York Post is over 200 years old. The New York Post was founded by Alexander Hamilton. And your position is that you can sit in Silicon Valley and demand of the media that you can tell them what stories they can publish, and you can tell the American people what reporting they can hear. Is that right?
No, this was a, every person, every account, every organization that signs up to Twitter agrees to a terms of service. Terms of service is
so
published.
Media outlets must genuflect and obey your dictates if they wish to be able to communicate with readers. Is that right?
To Senator Gardner's questions, you claimed earlier that the Holocaust denial and threats of Jewish genocide by Iran's terrorist Ayatollah don't violate Twitter's so-called rules, and that it's important for world leaders like Iran's terrorist leader to have a platform on Twitter. So let me ask you this: who elected the Ayatollah?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
He doesn't know who elected the Ayatollah. I'm just saying, but he's allowing this person to have an account. And, I thought that, saying something against Jewish people was the A1 no, like block, get out of here. But, now this particular representative, senator, I don't know if she's senator representative, she is no friend to American blacks, but the point has to be put across. If they are able to do it to a large concern, what will they be able to do to you one day? And when they have a candidate that you definitely don't like and you try to speak against it, they're not blocking you right now because you're anti whatever. But when they have a candidate they want to see pushed through, they blocked me for talking about Obama in the end. Because I was tagging Obama on what I was saying. I was like, man, you didn't do anything for us. They blocked my... So, I've seen it happen. And it will happen to you. And you're talking about fascist and Marxist. And we told you about those definitions before and what they really mean. You need to go back and watch the previous shows. Let's continue.
Okay. I think this is called a dictatorship. So are people in Iran allowed to use Twitter, or does the country whose leader you claim deserves a platform ban them from doing so?
Ideally, we would love for the people of Iran to use Twitter.
Well, Iran bans Twitter, and Mr. Zuckerberg, I know you are aware they ban Facebook.
That is what my sister would call jelly backness, right? It's like he knows the answer, but he said we would like. He defers. Come on now, we're using this platform. I watched this and I almost said, man, I should get rid of my Twitter account because this dude, I'll be glad when Tariq Nasheed hurries up and gets his platform up on PC and Apple and not just on the cell phone platform. You know what I mean? not just through the apps. You know what I mean?
Also, so Mr. Dorsey, is Donald Trump a world leader?
Yes.
Okay, so it would be important for world leaders to have access to your platform, correct?
Correct.
And so why do you deny that platform via censorship to the U.S. president?
We haven't censored the U.S. president.
Oh, yes, you have. How many posts from Iran's terrorist Ayatollah have you censored? How many posts from Vladimir Putin have you censored?
We have labeled tweets of world leaders. We have a policy around not taking down the content, but simply adding more context around it.
Okay, and the U.S. president you have censored 65 times. You testified that you're worried about disinformation and election interference. That is something we all worry about. And of course, for about 100 years, foreign sources have been trying to influence U.S. policy and U.S. elections. Now they're onto your platforms. They see this as a way to get access to the American people. So given your refusal to censor or ban foreign dictators while regularly censoring the president, aren't you at this very moment personally responsible for flooding the nation with foreign disinformation?
Just to be clear, we have not censored the president. We have not taken the tweets down that you're referencing. They have more context and a label applied to them. And we do the same for leaders around the world.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Do you share any of your data mining? And this is to each of the three of you. Do you share any of your data mining with the Democrat National Committee?
I'm not sure what you mean by the question, but we have a data platform that we have a number of customers. I'm not sure of the customer list.
I don't know the exact number, but I would guess that our employee base skews left-leaning.
Thank you for that honesty. Mr. Dorsey, you started your opening comments that you think that people don't trust you. I agree with that. We don't trust you. You all say you're fair and you're consistent, you're neutral, you're unbiased. Mr. Dorsey, I think the most incredible answer I've seen so far in this hearing is when Senator Cruz asked, does Twitter have the ability to influence elections? Again, does Twitter have the ability to influence elections? You said no. Did you stick with that answer that you don't even believe? And let's face it, you all believe that Russia has the ability to influence elections or interfere by using your social platforms. Mr. Dorsey, do you still deny that you don't have the ability to influence and interfere in our elections?
My answer was around people's choice around other communication channels.
No, your answer was, the question was, does Twitter have the ability to influence elections? And you said no. Do you still stand by that answer?
Twitter as a company, no. No,
you don't think you have the ability by moderation policies, by, as Senator Lee would call, and I would call it censoring, what you did with the New York Post. You don't think that censorship, that moderation of policies, you don't think that influences elections by withholding what I believe is true information from the American public? You don't think that interferes in elections?
Not our current moderation policies. Our current moderation policies are to protect the conversation and the integrity of the conversation around the elections.
Okay, for both Mr. Zuckerberg and Dorsey, who censored New York Post stories or throttled them back, do either one of you have any evidence that the New York Post story is part of Russian disinformation, or that those emails aren't authentic? Do any of you have any information whatsoever they're not authentic, or that they are Russian disinformation? Mr. Dorsey,
we don't.
You have no. So why would you censor it? Why did you prevent that from being disseminated on your platform that is supposed to be for the free expression of ideas?
Let me just make sure I understood the answer, Mr. Dorsey and Mr. Zuckerberg. Mr. Dorsey, did I understand you to say that you have no information indicating that the New York Post story about Hunter Biden has a Russian source? Did I understand correctly?
Yes, not that I'm aware of.
And is that also your answer, Mr. Zuckerberg, that you have no information at all to indicate that Russia was the source of this New York Post article?
Senator, I would rely on the FBI to make that assessment.
But you don't have any such information, do you?
I do not myself.
I'm just trying to clarify the answer to Senator Johnson's question. Thank you very much for indulging me there.
All right. So people, we ran through all these different definitions today. What is the possibilities and probabilities that these social media sites are practicing a type of new interweb censorship that has to be defined? There are demons that have to do with the air, floating in the air. What is internet but signals in the air? All we're saying is you have to be careful. Smash the like button, smash the share button, share this, like this, let people know, leave comments afterwards, put the information out there, tag your people in it, go to the Film Review Live channel on YouTube and subscribe. We've got 3 minutes. You got 150.
You know, the devil is often described as the prince of the power of the air. And when we think of mass media, go do your research. But media, there is a goddess associated with media. Imagine that. But you need to go do your research on that, because what's happening now, your information highway and the World Wide Web and all of that was set by design years ago. And we are at a culmination now of stuff is flying. There's boo-boo flying free course across the airwaves. And you're going to have the ability to discern. You're going to have the ability to be able to know what's right and what's wrong. You're going to have the ability. And so you can't sit there time after time after time and keep clicking off things that are not entertaining your flesh man. Remember, who you yield your members to is who you servants to obey. So if you spend your time, most of the time, being entertained and titillized by what's on mass media, then you're not going to be equipped when the time comes to make quality decisions for yourself. And it's a sad case right now because we're in a paradigm shift. And some of y'all don't even realize it. You don't know what time we're in. You think this is just going on, la, 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 que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. It's not exactly so. And because that'll be that way for you, but it's not going to be that way for some of us. So, you know, we're giving you the information. We can't overstate the point enough that we're bringing it to you so that you know. But if you don't apply yourself, Smokey, you'll never know.
Friday reference. All right, people. Tomorrow is the conclusion of this five set called Possibilities and Probabilities. You need to tune in. It's the conclusion, part 5. Then next week we move on to a whole nother situation, right? Make sure to go to the Film Review Live channel on YouTube and subscribe. Share this. We have brought this information to you. We started with how it applies at the very beginning in the music industry, and we bring it now to the demons that you have to look out for. What more can we say? This has been a jam-packed show. We appreciate to bring it to you. We will see you tomorrow on another great episode of hashtag Observations TFR by Crazy D with my special guest host, my sister, Tanya M. Congress. We'll see you tomorrow.
Here's the thing about your movie, why I made a curator's pick of the Hollywood Fringe. Community, heart.